alien visitations during the drama of the love obsession. So it's as if that kind of activity would increase during the drama of that connection going on. And indeed, that's what was written about in the book with many cases. And one that I did that actually Dr. Carla Turner wrote about in a book, the Ted Rice case. And his book, actually, that original book was called Masquerade of Angels, which was an awesome book and an expose and detail about what happened in his personal experience, having been taken numerous times in his lifetime by several species of aliens, by the way, and also being pre-bonded to a woman since he was a teenager over several times, and then where a love obsession resulted, and the whole dynamic of what happened in his life. And it really wasn't, a lot of the stuff wasn't pleasant. What Dr. Carla Turner did, in which actually Barbara Bartholick was the hypnotherapist who worked at length with Ted Rice and with many people, by the way, but she was able to get through what I call the screen memories of some of these experiences where maybe the first level of memory may be just they know they're missing time. And then the second level might be they remembered something medical being done, but they felt good about it. There was no fear, or they had like a positive feeling about it. But as she went deeper, she found that there were screens and layers to the memories and how they were manipulated, and that there were other things going on that were reptilian in nature, or more, I guess you could say, malevolent or exploitative that level. So that was clearly demonstrated in the Ted Rice case. So what I did is I just basically summarized the love bite aspect to show, how it happened in terms of the manipulation of, actually it was the heart chakra energies were literally fused and bonded from one person into the other. And that's one of the reasons why, the soul bonding was so strong.
Huh. So, and this manipulation is not just from aliens. It could be from MyLabs and from reptilian type sources. And what's the purpose behind it then? Like, is it for breeding purposes and hybridization type stuff? Or?
Well, I would say there's several, depending on who's doing it. I mean, if let's say it's classic alien abduction, where let's say in Ted's case, he remembers the first memory was he thought they were angels taking him. And then under regression, it was the Greys who did the physical picking up, right? And some of the medical stuff. But then there were reptilians and other aspects of the experience. So in his case, they did not have children. I don't even think they ended up getting married. So what I discovered over the years, and with Barbara Bartholick's continued mentorship, was that, there were several reasons why this could be taking place with the classic aliens who are doing the abduction scenarios. And one of them, of course, is to put people together so that they would have children, because they want that particular genetic bloodline of person so they could abduct them for whatever studies they're doing. That's one reason. Although I don't think that's necessarily the primary reason why they do this whole love bite thing. But for what the emotional harvesting is, what I think was the primary reason. And this is something Barbara Bartholick, basically would say, yeah, it's the emotional harvesting of these, the longing and the passion and the unrequited love and the sexual energy, or the anger or the rage, all these different emotional highs and lows, was more like a harvesting of emotional and sexual energy, which I believe now is the primary reason. But in cases like where we discovered there was what I call the MILAB experience, which would be a classic, let's say, alien abductee, someone who's had alien encounters throughout their life, could be Greys, could be mantises, could be any number of ETs. But in their case, there's military corresponding or in liaison with either one of those groups that are their handlers, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Or they could be military who take them later to interrogate them about what group they're interacting with. So, but in the MILAB thing, what we discovered is that the MILABs were like a subset of abductees who were sheep dipped into additional programs and secret programs that were carried out by military and aliens working together to create basically super soldiers and operatives or experimentees, depending on what they wanted to use them for. So in those cases, sometimes they put them together like a targeted partner, like a woman and a man, and they both be, quote, MILABs, or maybe just one. And then they would put them together in such a way that it activates their energy field, like the Kundalini energy. Mm-hmm. And so when that happens, you have an expansion and amplification of Kundalini, sexual energy, life force energy that one of the side effects of that is to have expanded awareness. So what happens is your psychic abilities can basically go through the roof after you've been basically activated with this energy, this Shakti, as a result. So what they would do is they put them together, sometimes with a partner or with a reptilian in some cases, that would activate their energy field. And they turn around and then take them and use them on some kind of what I call mind-controlled operation, like remote viewing or any number of things that they may be used for in these secret high-tech programs. So one of the reasons would be, of course, to activate their energy field, to amplify the psi, like what I call the psi energy or the psychic abilities or other abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So then that would make them more useful as an operative with heightened abilities. So that's another reason. And let's see, there was like 4 basic reasons why they put people together. Let's say if they disrupted someone or they set them up with someone, whether it's alien or military, it really wouldn't matter. If it's a disruption, they can do this to someone who's on their newly awakening experiences where they're wanting to know the truth about their, let's say, alien abduction or perhaps even mind control project experiences. If someone is actively seeking memory retrieval, they're doing their healing and recovery work, they're doing research, then they can be targeted with what I call a love bite setup with basically a Romeo agent who's like a sleeper or somebody that's being manipulated to be sent in their life to control and manipulate them such that they could never get their healing and recovery process done or undo the programming if it's a MILAB or a MK Ultra kind of thing. So that actually happens a lot. And I get a lot of those kind of cases where it's more of a disruptive kind of element going on where they're in a certain stage in their awakening process. And then all of a sudden, they have a relationship where the relationship is like what I describe in the Dark Side of Cupid book, which is my later book.
Yeah.
And that is basically a syndrome of a relationship where the energy vampirism characteristics are more predominating, where let's say one of the partners is hosted or influenced by what I call a third-party entity or an interdimensional being like a reptilian, but not necessarily a reptilian, that would use that, let's say, other partner as a vessel or puppet to basically manipulate the other partner or mess them up or suck their energy, basically, or just create all this drama in their life. And sometimes they don't even know how they're being influenced, or they don't even know what they have in their field, like an attached entity kind of thing. So that a lot of that's going on.
So is this something that most of the time people are remembering, or like if people are dealing with this, do they usually know it, or is this something that can, kind of be happening behind the scenes?
Well, I would say it happens behind the scenes a lot. I think that as we awaken emotionally, spiritually, it's like our spiritual eyes become opened, and then we may be able to actually perceive that there's a lot of this going on even naturally in the world without having to do with alien abduction at all, that there's an element of that's a natural part of like living on this planet. But in these cases, it's as if some people are deliberately targeted because they're expanding their awareness or they're in some kind of secret project. And as a result of this secret project, let's say it's a MILAB project that's associated with MK Ultra in some capacity, but also has alien involvement, they'll want to keep those people, they want to keep their programming intact. They want to maintain the security, and they want to be able to use these people as operatives. They're their assets, right, with these special abilities. So they want to keep them for themselves. It's like they own them, right? So they don't want them getting together with a partner that's going to be wonderful and true love, and it's going to awaken their abilities, and they're going to undo all the programming and find out this whole thing is a scam they've been involved in.
So that's kind of along the lines of something like almost fits right in with like a reincarnation idea, where with like soulmates that are kind of stuck together through different lifetimes, and these people are sort of stepping in and twisting it or manipulating it almost.
Yes. Oh, yes. And there's so many angles to this that we will discuss at the event at the end of February on the 28th. We're going to do a roundtable discussion event through Rise Multiversity, and the post is on my website. So what we're going to discuss, me and 5 people who all have had experiences as well as our own independent research in the whole love bite thing. We're going to talk about all the different angles of this, from an experiential perspective, from a research perspective, from a spiritual perspective, or from the perspective of, let's say there's a true soulmate or a twin flame kind of connection that literally gets disrupted by, let's say, for lack of a better term, by dark forces or watchers or interdimensional beings or reptilians or whoever may want to prevent the true love, because true love is very, very powerful and transformative and can manifest great things for the people. If the couple is really clear and they've done their healing work and their clearing work, it's an extremely powerful, wonderful thing. I mean, there's some religions, like in some Vedic perspectives, that the whole Jivan Mukti aspect of twin flame union is really the last step to enlightenment.
Yeah.
So it is that powerful. So this is something that, let's say, if there are dark forces who are manipulating the planet, they don't want that to happen. So they'll prevent that, and they'll mess with people who maybe really are the true soulmates, where one person is completely manipulated. Maybe they've, done things in their life. They tweaked things here and there, they can go in and out of time and tweak things so that people don't meet or people do meet. And aliens can do this. And this is already known with people who've had multiple alien abductions, that the aliens can go in and out of time and do things so that you meet someone or don't meet someone, or something happens or something doesn't happen. So it's really amazing when you consider the multidimensional and in and out of time perspective of all this. So yeah, it can get pretty overwhelming in terms of the tangents we can go on.
Yeah. I'm really interested in the anomalous trauma and the support that's out there, or should I say the lack of support that's out there for people, because I know some men and women that I've met over the last few years personally that have had entity encounters from when they were kids, and some of them don't really call it abductions, and some of them may call it abductions, some of them may just be vague about what kind of entity encounters there are. But I definitely want to save time in this chat for getting as deep as you can get into the incubus and succubus type encounter, and then what kind of support. Obviously, talking about it's good, and the counseling aspect, and then there's the hypnotherapy, and just talking about what kind of support is out there for people. Because obviously, part of the problem in our society is the denial of existence of any kind of anomalous trauma. Everybody wants to chalk it up to sleep paralysis or something. Yeah. Very blanket. Everybody that has anything happen in the middle of the night it's sleep paralysis, and I don't believe that that's the case. I have people, in my life that have had and are still having through their whole life incubus encounters, and I believe there's some similarities to sleep paralysis, but I don't think that explains the whole thing. I don't know if you want to get into that right now. We're going to link to your show and your books and everything in the show notes too. So we can talk more about your Rise Multiversity later as well.
Okay. Well, I could start with the sleep paralysis aspect, because that does occur. That actually can occur naturally in the human body when REM sleep starts and the muscle tone becomes paralyzed for a real reason, so that we don't act out our dreams. And part of that is a natural process of falling asleep. Yeah. Sometimes that could happen where you fall asleep so fast, you're conscious and become conscious of the fact that you just went numb and you can't move. But then I believe that there's things that happen in alien encounters where they know how to manipulate the brainwave state so that they can literally do something with a frequency and then just manipulate that state and then take you, so they can create that paralysis. So that's happened to me, even, with classic alien abduction, where they do some kind of frequency thing and it actually causes you to become paralyzed and be able to move. And then they can take you energetically, they could pull you out of the body, or they can pull you completely physically, or they can literally take you physically and move you through walls into a craft or, elsewhere. So that does happen. And sometimes you hear like a vibration or a hum before that, or almost like there's an earthquake, like an interdimensional earthquake kind of sensation, where you think the whole room is shaking. And that's when they're interdimensionally like cracking into your reality. And if they can get in, they can do that. So there's all kinds of ways they get in, but the sleep paralysis does happen, and the incubi succubi is something that's happened for years. And I guess depending on if it's a male or a female experiencing it, the entity would be, the female for the male and the opposite, for the female. but they can be one and the same beings that can shapeshift. And